Welcome, friends. This is Inspire Our Movement. My name is Caesar. Thank you so much for tuning in if this is your first time. This is a health and wellness space focused on love of self, love of others, and love of our beautiful planet. Our goal, our vision, is to feature each other's gifts, our passions, our call to action, our mission, and we're going to be working on a series of segments that are going to be tied on the conversation on purpose. Today, we are honored to have Pastor Josh Bell, who is going to be giving us some insight as to his experience around the role of purpose in his life. Today we're having a conversation around purpose, and we're being joined by none other than my friend and mentor and so many other things, Pastor Josh Bell. It's an honor and a privilege, sir, to be with you to have this conversation. I know that our viewers may not know of you as I do, so if you could please share a little bit about yourself, maybe some earlier experiences and who you are.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. It's a real honor to be here with you and here at Guangming Temple, and the opportunity to talk more about purpose. That matters a lot to me, and I know it matters a lot to a lot of people, so thank you for that. A little bit of background around me. I grew up in Northwest Florida, which is maybe 7 hours from here. I spent my entire childhood there, and then I went to Gainesville, went to UF for college, and then I went from there here to Orlando to attend seminary, and then went through the process to become a United Methodist pastor, and that's a long process. And along the way, I became an associate pastor for 4 years in Clearwater, and then I was a lead pastor here in Orlando for 4 years down in the Lake Nona area. So that's kind of the general trajectory, but that's where you and I met in Lake Nona, and
Yes, absolutely.
That's how we kind of wound up at this table, I think.
Forging that relationship and having so many conversations in the church parking lot, at the local
Yes.
Panera Breads, among other places, I'm sure, and my living room.
Yep.
And it's always been a great joy, and I've always not only enjoyed the conversations that we've had, but come always with some sort of insight or wisdom that I could take on. So I'm so happy again that we're doing this conversation on purpose. And the reason why we're having this conversation on purpose is because of my own internal struggles. Whether it be graduating high school, trying to establish what career I'm going to go into, should I go into engineering, should I go into international business, among many others, to now that you're fully functioning adult, am I really doing what I love to do? Is it something that's worth doing? Am I having a lasting impact? And because of my internal struggles, I think the viewer can possibly relate to that. Many of you possibly can. I'd like to maybe explore a little bit about how purpose can maybe steer us in a certain direction that's a little bit more healthy and more productive, not only for us as individuals, but have a more lasting impact on the community around us, the people that we interact with. So with that, I'd like to know a little bit about your maybe earlier influences, folks that maybe a guidance counselor in high school or somebody within your collegiate experience that you feel took you along a certain path to where you are today?
Well, that's a great question, and I think you're right that everybody can relate to this question. I know a lot of people, myself included, who we ask ourselves those questions. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? Am I on the track that I'm quote unquote supposed to be on? Is my life the way it's supposed to be right now? And so I think you're not alone. I'm not alone. If people are feeling that way, like there are a lot of people who feel that way. There are a lot of people who ask those questions. So what I respect and what I appreciate is the opportunity to put that out on the table and say, hey, this is where I'm actually at. And for a lot of people, it's there's a fear associated with admitting, hey, I'm not 100% sure I'm on the right track, or I'm not really clear on what my purpose is in life. And I don't know if this is true around the world because there's so many different cultures, but I definitely feel that for our society, or portions of our society in the United States, there's this expectation that you need to know what you are doing with the rest of your life today, right?
Absolutely.
And so, like, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? Have you thought about retirement? And it's not that those are bad questions, but I think that they can give the impression that your life has one single track that is the right track, and anything other than that is wrong and you're failing. And I think that puts way too much pressure on us. And I think it gives us the idea that failure is
unacceptable somehow.
Unacceptable,
right.
or that anything apart from that track is failure, right?
Right.
And so I want to acknowledge that the conversation around purpose sometimes needs to be reframed, right? And so for me, as I kind of discerned where I was headed in life when I made some decisions when I was younger, I want to acknowledge that that's an ongoing process. And so I've been a pastor. I'm still an ordained pastor, but I'm not pastoring a local church right now. So transitions happen along the way, even when you think, hey, this is where I'm supposed to go, right? Uh-huh. So life happens, stuff changes. And so in terms of the people that have influenced my life, especially growing up, my family was a big piece of that. My mom and dad, my sister, my extended family. We had this big, at the church I grew up in, we filled up at least 2 pews with extended family, my great-grandmother.
It's quite the family.
Yeah. And you want to talk about good food? Like, my love language is food. And okay. I learned that at family potlucks, at Easter and Thanksgiving and any other excuse to have a potluck, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea of family as the people who love you and support you and encourage you, mm-hmm. that's really important. And along with that, we all internalize certain messages from our family, right? That idea of this is the track for your life, for plenty of people, that message comes from mom or dad or the extended family. This is what you're supposed to do with your life. This is what success looks like. Mm-hmm. And again, that's
failures at times.
Right. Yeah. And so again, that's not like a criticism of our families for having goals for us or expectations. We all have expectations, right? But there comes a time when you sit and you start to think, okay, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Uh-huh. Does this fit who I am? Uh-huh. And so that process can happen at any point, really. I know people who are having those questions and conversations in their teens, uh-huh. like more power to them. I know people who are having those questions and conversations at retirement. Right? At midlife. Yeah, it's all downhill from here pretty much. You know, like midlife, you're at the top of the hill and then whoosh.
You're sort of like...
Yeah, I hope you've had fun.
Downward,
yeah.
It seems like.
Mm. Yeah, so I think what triggers those conversations a lot of time is milestone moments and transitions. Uh-huh. So, for example, where you are with your kids, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you want to share about that?
So I have 2 older sons. I have a 19-year-old and near 18-year-old son. And I would say that empty nester sort of sensation that my wife and I are going through right now is difficult. There's a sense of, we were very clear as to what our purpose was in raising these awesome children. Mm-hmm. To a point now they're leaving the nest and doing their own thing, obviously wanting to do their own thing, which is perfectly healthy. Mm-hmm. While we're sort of falling back and saying, well, boy, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
So, some of us a little bit older than say the graduating senior can definitely be at a crossroads in our lives and not really know where should we head to, what should we do, whether that be vocationally, whether that be in our relationships with people. We outgrow some relationships. I think it's apropos in a certain regard. I have a friend I want to call in Mr. Peter Maluso that alluded to impermanence and a Buddhist teaching. So it's appropriate that we're in a Buddhist temple, that we're constantly in this state of change and fluctuating about, and we have to allow ourselves to change. And to sort of metamorphosize into something other that may be just as beautiful or more beautiful than the version that we were before.
Yeah.
So thank you. So from what I'm understanding, your family was sort of your centerpiece as to for all things that have transpired in your life. They were sort of your go-to folks to steer into the path that you eventually, your pastoral experiences. Can you maybe talk a little bit into your current role?
So in terms of what I do now, so I'm the Director of Community Development for the Community Hope Center in Kissimmee, Florida. And that would be an example of a change in my professional trajectory in terms of what I thought when I started ministry I would be in the local church until retirement. And I might be back in the local church at some point, but there came a point when I needed to step out for a little while, and this opportunity opened up. And so a door opened that I didn't know I needed it.
Right.
And my friend and boss is Reverend Mary Downey. She's the CEO and founder of the Community Hope Center, and she needed someone to come in and do things that were within my skill set. And so I'm really grateful to her for an opportunity. And I think sometimes opportunities are what help us to understand what we're doing with our lives. And it may or may not be something we expected.
Exactly.
But then it
may not fit into that 5-year plan or 10-year plan, whatever the case may be.
It might not fit the plan, but it fits who you are.
Exactly.
And that... So what I do at the Community Hope Center, my responsibilities include faith partnerships, including Guangming Temple. Guangming brought a volunteer group to serve with us just a couple weekends ago. But bringing in anybody from any faith community who wants to do good and help homeless people. So the Hope Center is focused on helping homeless and precariously housed people step into what we call self-determined success, meaning moving from where they are in situations of significant need to being in a place where they can meet the majority of their needs themselves. And so it's an amazing thing to watch.
To be self-sufficient.
Yeah, so self-sufficiency is a term that it's right in the right ballpark, but when people say self-sufficiency, sometimes there's like really specific things that they think that means. And if you're coming like me from kind of a middle-class white background, it's 2 cars and the kids get to go to extracurricular activities and that kind of thing.
Right.
If you're coming from homelessness, it can look different. Just being stably housed is a huge step forward. And so the work that the Hope Center does to help people move into that is really amazing. And in the process, it also helps people ask themselves the question that we're talking about. What do I want for my life? And so the question that has always been part of the Hope Center ever since Mary started it, when we sit down with a client, we say, what are your wishes, hopes, and dreams? Because we believe that no one who's physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally healthy wants to be dependent on somebody else.
Totally agree.
Everybody wants to be able to stand on their own 2 feet whenever possible.
Mm-hmm. And
if you're in a situation of extreme need, you have a better idea for your life, but it could be that the need has gone on for so long that feels unattainable.
Hopeless.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, if you think about times when we've experienced rejection, like maybe you didn't get into the college you wanted, or you didn't get the job, or you got fired, or you got turned down in a relationship situation, whatever, rejection sucks. Like, it's just a kick in the gut, you know? And if you're in a situation where you're facing rejection over and over and over again, then that becomes very demoralizing. And it's little daily rejections about, I don't have the money to put food on the table, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay rent, or I couldn't pay rent, so we were evicted. All those pieces, it just becomes a cascading thing. And so the Hope Center's role is to come alongside people and not rescue them, but meet them where they are and help them navigate to where they want to be, and help them identify barriers and move forward.
Wonderful.
It's really amazing work.
So do you feel that, this sort of happened, right? This transition sort of happened, but there is sort of a synchronicity of sorts between pastoral duties and your current function. I guess for somebody like me looking at it from the outside looking in, where it's very missionally based in a sense, because you're helping folks tangibly to kind of piece together their lives. And very much like a person could have gone to you under, say, your pastoral duties, very much in the same manner for a whole host of different reasons. Do you think that synchronicity, going back now to the conversation on purpose, is because you have this sort of inner either gift or your skill set so very well aligns towards helping others?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I'll say that me being at the Hope Center was, I needed a job and they had a job for me.
Right.
And so sometimes it's a very practical thing. But what I've discovered in my time there is that it does align with my gifts and who I am as a person. And I think that's a key piece. So part of understanding how we are to live in the world and what we're supposed to do with our time here is having an understanding of who we are and how we function, how we're gifted, how we're wired. Because if we can understand that better, then we know better, not perfectly, but better, okay, this opportunity is congruent with who I know myself to be.
In layman's terms, almost like weeding the weeds or pushing the weeds away from the grass, so to speak.
Well, yeah, I think...
In terms of opportunities that show up and...
Yeah, sorting between a good fit and a not so good fit. Right? And so I think that to me, a good fit vocationally and professionally is the question of what makes a good fit is, does it fit who you are? And does it align with just your personhood, I guess? So actually at the Hope Center, I don't do the day-to-day client services. We have some amazing advocates that do that. And so I don't want to give the impression that that's my day-to-day job. My job is to build those relationships with faith partners. And so that's congruent with my, I've always been a connector of people. And so that yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Collaborating, connecting.
Actually, you connect. This was you. Yeah. But but so that fits with who I am. And then my other roles at the Hope Center are our affordable housing project. So we're building affordable housing in Osceola County, which is super exciting. And then looking at funding that, we're going to do a capital campaign. So those are also about connection.
Right.
Helping people understand, hey, we've got a mission and a vision that we're trying to achieve in this place, and we're inviting you to connect to that. And the neat thing is that's that relational piece. You know Mary Downey.
Yes.
And that's who she is.
Yeah.
And so the character of our agency is very much based on who she is as a person. So the relationships are so important. And I think relationships are a big piece of understanding who we are and how we're wired.
We don't arrive at maybe our overriding purpose in our lives alone.
No.
It is a
That's a great way to
collective
say
that takes us or gets us there, so to speak. It takes a village to raise a child. I think so goes the saying.
Yeah.
I think it sort of applies to arriving at what is our role in this thing we call life.
Yeah, and I think that's so key, because another like myth maybe that we believe, and I'm coming from a Christian background, right? There's sometimes this idea that you're supposed to discern God's will for your life independently, and God's going to give you this Holy Spirit epiphany. But I think a lot more often it happens in conversations with other people. It happens in interactions with other people. Seeing how your life is compared and contrasted to other people's lives. Like, okay, this is a way that we're different. This is a way that we're the same. It helps me understand more about myself as I experience who you are.
Right.
And so that community aspect is critically important. Yeah.
I would agree with that. So I would want to maybe leave our viewers as we kind of take our conversation full circle. And you've already alluded to maybe philosophically or ways that we can really think about the word purpose in a more practical sense. Still hopelessness out there in terms of where I'm at with my life. Can you give us a word of encouragement, uplift us, leave us with something that we can, obviously we're taking so much away from this conversation already. I certainly have. But just, for anybody out there, behind the lens, so to speak, that is, listening to these things and can relate and is feeling a sense of emptiness and hopelessness. And this all sounds really nice, but how do I begin to execute this? Is it seeking counsel? Is it going to, I don't know. I don't know what facilities there are out there, but hey, what support system they can lean on to be happier and in part make others around them happier through what they're doing day to day.
I think that's a great question. I think if to folks who are kind of in a space of struggling and questioning and wondering and discerning, which would be a kind of a churchy word for it, but I think the first and most important thing is to remember that we're not alone on the journey, right? There are always people around us who are positive influences and who are people who care about us. Like, I think sometimes we don't understand how many people care about us. And it's easy to get into a space, especially if you're in that questioning if you're in a season of hopelessness, that becomes very isolating, right? Because you feel like nobody knows what this feels like. I'm the only one who's going through this.
It's the only, I'm the only one. That's it.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm all alone. Yeah. And you look online, you look at somebody's Instagram post and you're like, wow, their life is so great and they've got good lighting, No.
That's in their filter that's not on mine.
Yeah, that photo has been doctored. Yeah. But recognizing it's so helpful to me when I'm in those spaces to remember that I am not, by a long shot, the only person who's ever been there. That every person goes through seasons where life is less clear or where life is just harder in general, maybe situational stuff. And if we can remember first and foremost that there are people who want to help, and by help I mean listen and show up and be there for us, sometimes we have to take the step of asking, saying, hey, can we go to coffee? Or can we talk? Or could I call you on the phone? Like, we all like to text a lot. And then when someone actually calls, it's like, why are they calling me?
You almost feel like they're intruding. We've lost that connectedness with one
Yeah.
another.
Yeah, we need to hear the sound of somebody else's voice.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we can actually see somebody else's face in that process, there's just a very basic connection that happens there. And so I think when someone's in a space of discouragement, hopelessness, or uncertainty about life, doing the best you can, and don't like guilt yourself or shame yourself, but do the best you can to reach out for help. To tell someone, some safe person, I'm struggling right now. And, even if in a lot of situations there are people who are struggling and on the outside their life looks great. Like, people would be shocked to hear that this person is struggling with X, Y, or Z or uncertain about life. But being able to say to somebody else, yeah, this is a really rough patch for me for whatever reason, that just saying those words to another human being kind of lifts the weight a little bit and makes you feel a little bit less alone.
Right.
And so that community piece is so key. And then identifying who those safe people are that you want to speak into your life. So maybe you have family members that fall in that category. I know people who have amazing family connections, and I know people who don't get that from their family. So it just depends on the person. But there's biological family, and then there's family of choice. So who are your friends who are like family? Who are the mentors in your life, the people you really look up to, that you can say, have you been through this before? The answer is probably going to be yes. And they'll be able to share a story of, yeah, that happened to me, So reaching out for that support, whatever your spiritual framework is for life, oftentimes there's a community attached to that. So maybe it's a church, a synagogue, a mosque, a beautiful temple. Connecting with that community in some way can be very helpful. But I think the biggest thing is just to give yourself some grace. Like, don't carry the weight of thinking you have to have it all figured out, because no one does. And the people who pretend like they have it all figured out are annoying. So be honest. Be open, be authentic, and over time, some things will become clearer. Not everything, but some things, enough will become clearer to help you keep taking that next step one day at a time into whatever the next season of your life is.
And help you make that transition in the healthiest of ways.
Yeah, doing the best you can,
And that's really what this is all about. This thing called living is exactly that, just doing the best that we can. And this space that we're trying to create with Inspire Movement is none other than this. I feel like I've learned so much, as I often do, as I always do really in our sit-downs. And I quite miss them, by the way. We need to do this more often, and certainly not in front of a camera.
I like cameras. We should have a camera with us
do this
at
again
all
in front of a
times.
camera.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. But there is a sort of the genuine connection, pupil to pupil, aura to aura. As you said, it doesn't. I don't want to dissuade anybody that this all has to happen within a spiritual framework, human to human. Just the fact that we don't, quite do this as often as we did in yesteryear, where folks actually used to meet in a cafe and how's your family and how are you doing, and truly mean it and allow for a little bit of an expanse in the conversation to dive in and kind of see how are you doing.
Yeah, that's huge.
Is absolutely huge. So it is about developing community. I'd like to thank you, Pastor Josh, for all of this incredible insight as to what it is to aspire, at least, to live a life of purpose, and how elusive that can be to all of us as we go forward, and how there is a certain level of impermanence as we go through life, And as we're changing, our interests change, our biology isn't only changing, but the way that we think, the way that we approach things, the network of friends that we may have changes. But all through it, we need those people in order to make it by. I'd like to, before closing really, allow for some space for any special projects that you may be about to embark on, whether it be with the Community Hope Center or something other. Could be leisurely, something that you want to share with our viewers that is so cool about you.
Cool about me? Well, oh, okay. You lost me when you said cool about me. So a Hope Center project that I'd love to let people know about is that we are getting ready to build affordable housing. And so that's a huge thing for us. And so people who are interested in that, we've got to raise money to do that. So if you're interested in that, let me know, because you can do a lot of good in our community by funding projects like this or anything. You can make a difference. But Hope Village is going to be an awesome opportunity to really make a very practical impact on our community. So if you're interested in being connected to Hope Village or making a donation to the Hope Center, you can go to our website, which is hope192.com. And there's information on the website about how to donate and where to donate. And when we launch our capital campaign for the Hope Village, you'll definitely be finding out more about that through our Facebook page. So you can find us on Facebook, the Community Hope Center of Osceola County. Like our Facebook page, sign up for our email newsletter, and we would be happy to send you more information.
I'd like to now take an opportunity to thank the Guangming Temple. We are so graciously being housed by this beautiful temple. Thank you so much to the Venerables, to Miss Aina Denton, as well as Peter Maluso, who have been so gracious with their hospitality. Truly just an amazing experience, and so very thankful that we were able to do this together here in their space. Truly a privilege, honestly. And with that, I'd like to take us in closing around this conversation regarding purpose. So much insight from Pastor Josh. One of the major takeaways, at least for me in this conversation, is we're not alone. I'm not going through this alone. You're not going through this alone. And there is an entire community that you could reach out to. And I know it can seem difficult and sometimes maybe empty in who to reach out to, but take a chance. Don't hold it in, and know that you're not alone in this, these trials and tribulations of all things life. We don't always figure it out. We don't necessarily always know where we're going, but if our intention is good and we center ourselves around good people and for good causes, I think we'll eventually get to wherever it is that we're supposed to go. So with that, thank you so much, Pastor Josh. Again,
thank you.
Truly honored and privileged by your presence here, and I'm so much looking forward to another conversation in front and not in front of the camera with you.
I'm looking forward to that too.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and making it through this segment. I hope that you had a lot of takeaways from it. I know I did. Pastor Josh was a tremendous guest. We're going to be doing a lot more video segments like this one. So if you enjoyed this one, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I assure you that you're going to it's not going to be wasteful for you, and you will get something as insightful or even more insightful going forward. Look forward to seeing you guys.